Tracy, if I may, from Rangitane, we would just like to say that we wholeheartedly support the submission of Pukaha. And I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate both Emily and Moira and their team in reaching, the stage, and I'm really happy with where things are going. And also, I'd just like to make one comment about co-governance. This partnership we have with Pukaha is one of the best in the country, and it's held up as one of the best in the country. That co-governance does work, although there are some skeptics about it, but we are doing it, and we are doing it really well. And may it last. We do have some challenges. Most of those challenges around trying to put people in the right places on the boards, even in employment. We've just tried to negotiate a young guy from Rangitane to be part of Pukaha. So we do have a lot of challenges, but it is deemed to be one of the best co-governance partnerships in the country. So yeah, good on you, Emily. Just love this lady, and they've got a great team. Till later. Sure.
Thanks, Maya. And look, I can concur going out there that there's always something new and something happening at Pukaha. But I'd also like to thank you for working with the Tauranga District, for working with the people of Pahiatoa, for working with Rangitane, and what you've done for our Polish connections and that extraordinarily generous gift of naming a Kiwi after the people of Poland. That has certainly put us all on the map, but what it's done to the heart for the Polish people. And Emily, you and I were there and actually witnessed that amongst them and in Parliament was certainly the envy of a lot of people. So I do thank you very much for working with us on that and for everything that you do. So we certainly see the value in that partnership. And I just in closing, councillors, I did go to the top of Pukaha Mount Bruce in my aspirations. I was going to look out over Te Taparinui or Whātonga, and it was a very, it could do with a few more seats for Western. So I think I came to that conclusion. I might have to submit to the long-term plan. But when I got to the top, all my dreams were crushed, and I didn't see Te Taparinui or Whātonga. I saw some clouds, so I'll have to make that trip again. So, but thank you very much for coming, and I do invite you to stay on for Rangitane's submission as well, and to join us afterwards. Thank you. So welcome, Whaia Lorraine and the team from Rangitane o Tamaki Nui Aroa. And just get you to use your mics just so that everybody can hear online. That would be great.
Tihei Māori ora ki te whaiao, ki te ao marama, Māori ora ki te rangi, Māori ora ki te whenua, Māori ora ki te wai, Māori ora ki te pārai, Māori ora ki ngā mea katoa o ora ana, ki te aorangi, ki te wai, ki te whenua. Salutations to the world of light and the enlightenment of much gifts reside in our heavens and in our earth, in our waters, over our lands and over our forests. Indeed, may the same reside all our living things, wherever they may dwell, in the skies above, in the waters, and over the land below. Te hei Māori. This is life. So, tēnā koutou, mihi nui kia koutou. E huhui mai nei, I hara mai a hau te tautoko o te kaupapa o te rānei. Tēnā koutou katoa. Well, you know who I am. And I would just like to mihi to our whānau who have come along, and especially to Kiri Roimata. Part of our succession plan is to bring them into these forums, and she was the most bravest one today. And, you know, it's really important for us to have our rangatahi to come and be part of these processes. Sean's going to introduce himself as we go along. To start, as I've been part of this process from the beginning, and I think I've missed probably 1 or 2 meetings, what came out of that is the fact that actually Rangitane, through me as their representative, does know a lot about the long-term plan process, and I've been able to, during that time, have input, so that some of that stuff that, you know, I was concerned about for Rangitane has already been talked about. So it's not going to be as in depth as, you know, in terms of Te Tiriti o Waitangi. There's those relationships are stuff that we're going to make sure that we continue on our journey. And I have expressed this before, that when we are tasked as leaders with these responsibilities, that there are all our people behind us. So we can't consult with everybody. You know, we've just got to make the best of it, and hope to hell one of our whānau doesn't turn up and say, well, I didn't agree to that. You know, and that's how it is, because you can't have your own personal opinion on matters. You have to be very careful that you're not putting a slant on your idea of what it should look like. And it's a bit, as an example, we're just having a bit of a laugh, Sean and I, quietly at the back there after Jim did his kōrero on the swimming pool, because both he and I had different opinions, and I won over. But actually, I might have to just think about what that looks like when I go to get to that part. It's amazing how things can change just because you hear somebody else's view, and you think, oh God, and he's giving me the look.
It was a kind.
It was a kind look. Yeah, so I guess for me today, it is a reminder that, you know, we have had 25 years of a partnership. This council, maybe not you as councillors, but for 25 years, we Rangitane have been partners with the Tararua District Council. 25 years is a very long time. We're not new at this. I've sat at this table doing submissions for a bit longer than that, but so we have a stake in this community, and we have been continuing to uphold our responsibilities as mana whenua for this community. And I have to say that this process, the long-term plan for 2024 onwards, has been one of the best I have experienced during my time being in this arena, because it feels like an arena sometimes when you're having a little. And I want to congratulate you all for that, especially you, Mayor Tracy. I have enormous respect for you, and you have seen how a community can work well together when we have open discussion and we're honest with each other. And like Jim said, I mean, I was blown away by Jim's comments, because I've been in council with Jim. I was there in the days that he was there, and I saw what he was talking about. There was very little respect, actually. And so I've recognised that around this table, and that for me is huge for us as Māori, because we want to engage with people that we can trust, that we know that we're going to have influence with, and that influence is respected. We don't want to be educating people, those days for us are over. But the reality is, with this particular council, that doesn't seem to be a problem, that you have gone a long way in your thinking of how you manage the Māori space and how you manage your relationship with us as iwi. And, you don't get it right all of the time, but you're certainly a long way towards doing so, as opposed to what it was 25 years ago when we first signed an agreement or a partnership with, at the time it was, I can't think of her name now, Maureen Reynolds, yeah. So we have a document that some of you have seen and some of you might not have seen, called Te Tāpiri Nui o Whātonga. And we've developed this over the 25 years based on legislation, relationship building within our community. And this is our Bible now. And I'm just so proud of this document. It's like, for me, it's progress for us as people. And, what we're trying to develop for Rangitane is some consistency, because you guys all change, you don't all change, you come back. After years, you have another go at it, but the reality is we never change. Or, well, I don't. This guy might, I'm always here as other Māori, as other Rangitane people are. So we're trying to develop processes where that if you're gone tomorrow, somebody else can pick up the same. And that's what the long-term plan is for us, is that our input into the long-term plan is imperative, because if I'm not here, that they can pick the plan up and say, oh, well, Rangitane's had some input there. So I think that, it's just exciting stuff, really. I mean, I try not to think about us having no money, and that's the reality. But it's pretty exciting to think that collectively, collaboratively, we can manage the other stuff. We can manage getting around the hard stuff. And I think that we're in a really good position, to be fair, because if I think about Cyclone Gabrielle, that for us all was an exercise of collaboration, and we're still doing that. I mean, I'm on the infrastructure team. We built all of these little spaces where that we could all work towards making sure that we looked after our community, Tararua, Tamaki Nui Aroa. We all work together, and that is unprecedented, to be fair. It had to be a disaster to cause us to be, not to protect our patches and to work together. But, the Alliance infrastructure team is the matrix system that they've developed, and that is just, it's groundbreaking. And those are the things that I talk about, that this council is in a different headspace. Our people in our community, your staff are in a different headspace. There's a lot more willingness, and yeah, it's pretty cool to be working around council at the moment. Never used to be for me. I guess the thing for me has been here a long time is that most of the time I was on the ante, and I'd have to be actually. Yeah, it's a different space, and I love it. So thank you for that. So our presentation isn't that long, and I wanted to just remind you about who Rangitane are, just so that this document's going to be something that we're going to share with you. But it is important to us that you know, it's just a reminder of the people that we are and the right that we have for being here today, tomorrow, and forever on. So there were going to be different ones seated, but around the table. But today it's me, and it's Sean, and it's Kiri Roimata, Emily, and Moira. Te kurahau te waka, ko te awa pokere te tamakuku te awa. Ko ruahine te maunga, ko te tāpiri nui o whākatonga te ukaipo, ko rangitāne te tūpuna, te hei taiao. The origins of rangitane. We are rangitane from Tamaki Nui Arua. We refer to ourselves throughout this document as rangitane mana whenua, and will define our role when necessary to differentiate ourselves from other rangitane whānau. Rangitane trace their descent from the explorers of Kupe and Whātonga, a rangitira of the Kurahaupo Waka and grandfather of the eponymous ancestor, Rangitane. Rangitane tradition records their centuries-long history of settlement in Wairarapa and Tamaki Nui Arua. So if you didn't know, there are 4 Rangitane. We all came off the same waka, but we settled Wairarapa, the top of the South Island, Manawatu, and here. Before 1840, and their special association with many places, including the Wairarapa Lakes, Eastern Coast, and Te Tāpiri Nui o Whātonga, also known by non-Māori as 40 or 70 and 90 Mile Bush. Rangitane were among those who welcomed Pākehā or European settlers to the region from the mid-1840s. Rangitane endured considerable challenges from the annual rents and trade with the new arrivals who leased large areas of the land. The Crown applied pressure on Wairarapa Māori to end the leases and instead sell the land to the Crown. In 1853-54, the Crown acquired about 1.5 million acres of land and 3/5 of the traditional takiwā of Rangitane. In the 1860s, the Crown introduced legislation that created the Native Land Court, a new tenure system inconsistent with the tribal tenure of Rangitane communities. In 1871, the Crown acquired considerable areas of Rangitane land in the 70-mile bush between Norsewood and Pukaha, Mount Bruce. After all, most land titles had been awarded by the court to 10 or fewer Rangitane owners, through good and bad land deals, Rangitane withheld from sale the large Mataikona block of over 60,000 acres. From 1877, the Crown applied pressure to purchase this land, even though recognised leaders of Rangitane opposed the sale. By 1890, the Crown had acquired over 85% of Mataikona block. Today, less than 1% of the original block remains in Māori land title. By 1910, only 10% of Rangitane traditional rohe remained in Māori land title. By 1940, and figure had dropped to about 3.5%. Some land, including 580 acres in Te Tāpiri Nui o Whātonga, 70-mile bush, and 300 acres around Dannevirke, was lost to public works takings. Today, approximately only 2% of the region is owned under the Māori land title. The settlement of Wairarapa and Tamaki Nui Arua resulted in significant transformation of the environment. Much of Te Tāpiri Nui o Whātonga 70-mile bush was cut down to make way for the agricultural sector, roading and railways, along with the new towns of Norsewood, Dannevirke, Pahiatua and Ikitahuna. Rangitane lost much of their traditional sources and tonga, or treasures, much as the huia bird. The condition of lakes and rivers was degraded, becoming virtually landless by the early 20th century. Rangitane communities struggled to maintain their traditional papakainga, gardens, rivers, customary knowledge and language. During this period, Rangitane experienced considerable social deprivation. and after 1940, Rangitani identity suffered further due to the urbanisation and assimilation pressures, including the effects of World Wars I and II, social colonisation, and Crown schooling, and discouraging of the use of reo Māori language. The following section identifies the takiwa of Rangitani. Well, that's just it shows a picture of it, but just gives you a little bit of an idea of where we've come from and why we continue to, as mana whenua, protect our patch. And, you know, although our land loss, we still celebrate those of us who have land. I farm a farm that is 700-800 years. A tupuna called Te Hore, she owned the land. And today my farm is called Te Hore. Just to remember the stories of our people of the past. So just a little bit of history. Because as I say, our submissions are a little bit we've decided that we won't go into depth on everything, as you know, we just wanted to make sure that we covered areas that we knew that our people would okay. Yeah, something it's one of those things when you're working with submissions about ensuring that you get the general consensus, and it's not a Lorraine and a Sean.
Sean.
Okay, so Sean's going to start.
Thanks.
Thank you, Lorraine. I'm not Rangitani. I choose to work with Rangitani. I like them. They're good people. But more importantly, I really want great outcomes for the people I work with. And they're your people too. When I spoke with Lorraine earlier prior to coming here, you know, the foundation for this hui is how do we collaborate together to build a strong foundation for this district. And if you are still watching TV1 News and taking antidepressants each day, at the moment you'll see things aren't so good in New Zealand. So we've got a different worldview. This is the time for growth. Rangitani have a growth aspiration. And I bring, I guess, two hats to that. I'm the general manager for Te Tahua Rangitani, which is their economic and housing entity, but I'm also the program lead for Rangitani Tūmairā Investments, which is our post-settlement group and is looking to do significant investment in this region. So when I go back and we talk about representing our people, the feedback I've had is that our people want to be healthy and well. They want to be grounded in their te ao Māori and their history. Our people want a part of whānau who want to be linked to their marae, hapu, iwi, and do things in a kaupapa Māori way. They're innovative, they're aspirational, they're young, they're horny, they're breeding like rabbits. You know,
I've got 17 muckles in 9th grade, so yeah, you're right.
yeah.
Oh, celebration!
Such not important.
Our people want to live in an environment where the waters are safe to drink, lands are fertile and productive, where the air and the sky is safe to breathe, and the built environment is an extension of our kaupapa. These are the things that your whānau want as well, I'm sure. Importantly, they all tell us they want our leaders to be connected and united in a common purpose. Okay, we are tied at the hip. We're in this waka together. So their aspirations got to guide where Lorraine and I are coming from today, and we're going to just work through them all, and we might change on the way, as she said. But you know, we've come today with a view of charting a new course. Because I think actually we might need to start charting a new course if we're going to buck the trend that's hitting the negativity that's hitting New Zealand at the moment. And there's no reason why we can't. Peter tells me everyone wants to come live here anyway. Right. It's yours.
Yeah.
You're on the first.
Okay.
Moving.
Right, okay. Now you try and explain to my granddaughter who's just bought a house about rate smoothing or rates and what? What about the rates? They're not going up, are they? You know, first that she's 26 and they've just bought their first house and don't let the rates go up, you know, but this is a thing, they are going to go up. So what we think
is the most palatable option is option 3. Yeah, we support option 3 for our people because we know that those, and we had some of them here in this room recently talk about their housing woes, their affordability. Some of us could afford just to have a straight up, you know, rate rise and pay it, but the majority don't have that ability. Now, this young lady, she owns her own house. She didn't say anything to me about the rates actually when we came here, but she's got her own house up Robert Shaw Crescent. So we've gone for a 6-year smooth in that place because our people need that. A swimming pool. Okay. Before we came here, we were at opposite ends. My thing is about community. His thing is about economics. I'm a business person as well, but in this, I explained it to look, we have a responsibility, a social responsibility, Rangitani does, a social responsibility to our people. We have people in Pahiatu, we have bukapunas in Pahiatu. The thing is that, you know, it's the right thing to do to support it. It's the moral thing to do to support it because our people are there. And also, we want to support the community. Now, they had the most wonderful presentation and they've ticked all the boxes. Everything's there. And Sean did say to me, well, you know, it is the economics of it. And I said to him, well, at the end of the day, I'm going to support our people and, you know, leave it up to the gods. Well, come on, you know?
Yeah.
It's not easy because you heard Jim say it's hard yards, you know, we didn't win lotto. We didn't win lotto, but you heard Jim say we can't afford it.
Yeah.
It's unaffordable. And it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt. So I don't know what to do.
I think we support the funding in principle, subject to them getting the 1.1. But I'm currently working with a number of non-for-profits and significant fundraising projects in the Lower North Island, and there's a dearth of money. And I think they're going to be lucky to get in there.
But can you throw some light on it?
If that's possible, Mayor Tracy. So the $1 million is at the back end. So in order to get that from the Lotteries Commission, which they have already said, will be available so long as the council can come or the community can come up with that $2 million loan. So basically what lotteries tend to do is pick up at the back end the balance of what's required, and that money is sitting there and earmarked for that. If that's that's a simple explanation. Yeah.
Yes, we understand.
So you had that in writing? Cool. Okay, great. So on that basis, you should proceed because it's actually a town. And for somebody who's going to be building 40 homes up the road from it, it does give quite a lot of amenity value to a town that could do with some freshness in that area. So we just know how hard it is to get money.
200 metres away.
Yeah, it might as well be swimming pool for our subdivision then. Yes. So,
There we are, it's settled.
yeah, deal done.
Thank you. We've accepted option 2.
Right?
We have gone with option 1. I think you know why.
I think you've got to have to spend the money on your roads. It's got a core infrastructure in your region. I guess moving across to economic development and grant funding thing, that causes some concern for us. Okay, and I think the concern is actually that we kind of sense that it's kind of, if we separate those two and you've grouped them together, but they're two separate entities, really, one doesn't. There's no real crossover between economic development and giving grants out to art groups or whatever. Is it the grant funding? Our community relies on a lot of community organisations to survive. There isn't a lot of government agencies going to come with on a white horse with bags of money. I can't see that on the horizon in the near future. So we need to keep these places alive. But it does seem like it's a bit of a shotgun approach, and we're not 100% convinced that the current strategy that you're taking with the community boards and targeting your grants appropriately is the best way forward. Okay, so we'd like you to revisit that, but we think you should maintain the grant funding. Economic development, if I put my developer hat on, and we expect in the next 5 years and maybe a little longer to invest somewhere in the vicinity of $30 million in this region in housing and infrastructure, no developer would go to a town that isn't prepared to back itself and promote itself and say how wonderful it is and encourage people to come live here. Okay, because it kind of looks like an economic death valley. So we actually need some levers to pull, especially when we've got a growth strategy that we supported and you endorsed. And without some money in economic development fund, we then leave it in the hands of the gods, unicorns and rainbows. We can't afford to do that. That's too risky. We think that money needs to be retained. Notwithstanding that, we can't see a lot of outcomes from the way that money's currently spent. It's either well hidden or poorly reported. Okay, we're talking in the vicinity of 280K, if you just do the rough maths based on what you shared, and it's just not apparent where that's gone and what it's done. So we think maybe this is the time we come to the table and actually start talking about a shared approach to economic development, because we're putting money in. We've got a vested interest. You guys have a vested interest to do that well, but we don't think you should cut the cash there at all. So we support option 2. The differential rating thing, we really support the philosophical basis behind it because it's largely a user pays approach. But your own wording says it's a complex system to put it in place. Complex systems, you might as well just say costly systems because they're the same thing. If
if the cost outweighs the benefit, we would encourage you to pull the pin on that one and stay agile. But in general, we support the principle of option 2. It's just the execution is going to be the tricky piece. And we're not sure how you're going to achieve it.
Contiguous, non-contiguous rating units. Spoken to some of our Māori farmers and we're going with option 1. We're going to stay with option 1. I've been a farmer myself. We supported, in this instance, we supported community farmers putting on this as well. And ratepayers pay pretty well towards rates in this region, and you know they have some arguments about the fact that they don't use this and they don't use those amenities, but actually there are some benefits, and this is going to be one of them if you stay with option 1.
Tracy, Lorraine, you've got, your submission said option 2. So have you changed your mind?
Oh, yeah, don't worry about the submission.
Oh, that's old hat now, right? Thank you for,
This is what I mean about, it's not my view or his view. Once you go and talk to somebody else, you think, oh God, yeah, okay. Yeah.
just wanted to clarify.
Yeah,
that.
don't worry about that one. Yeah.
Just pop your mic on.
Sorry.
No, I had the same thing, Stephen.
Yep.
Oh, okay, land, reserves and land status. Now I'm really interested in this kaupapa, so, and I have expressed that on several occasions. I believe I'm book behind. Sorry. The red book there. Okay, so, because with the reserves, especially, it says it's part of Te Tāpiri Nui o Whātonga domain. And we believe that that we can help council come to terms with how we manage the reserves and get them classified so that we can maximise our dollar and where we spend it in terms of reserves. So reserves and status and classification, our recommendation is that Rangitane, Mana Whenua and Tararua District Council together research every parcel of land that is used as open space, understanding its legal status, e.g. is it a park or is it a reserve under the Reserve Act, and make sure that the status of the park and reserve land is appropriate. And once that's done, and I know we've already started this, so once that's done, it's the first time that such in-depth effort has been put into this space, and we're pretty excited about it because, I think I've said it here before that we believe that some of those spaces could actually be reverted back to Te Tāpiri Nui o Whātonga. And there's not going to be a lot of that bit of land, but there will be some, which means that you can then direct that money somewhere else. It's a little bit like the same about the buildings. The buildings that District Council is responsible for, just about having brave conversations about, because we don't want to be caretakers over. Yeah. People have lost, because there's a whole new generation, there's not the same connection to things anymore. There's a few grey heads around here that might have that, but most of the time now there are a whole generation of people who aren't quite connected to things as what we used to be in the days gone by. So it's opportunity now to have those grave conversations. Climate change.
Well, as you know, Tararua District Council and Rangitane have signed, are signatories of the Manawatu Wanganui Climate Change Action Group, and we recommend that we continue to do so. Climate change for us, and because it's so important, is in our document, and climate-induced changes to the natural environment in Aotearoa, New Zealand, are expected to fundamentally alter the way Māori interact with the environment, each other and each communities. The impacts of climate change are already being felt within the communities, business, native ecosystems, and infrastructure within the region. Climate change and its associated impacts will have significant social, economic, environmental, and cultural implications for the region's communities. So we just recommend that we continue on our journey of learning. Now, Rangitane on the 24th of this month is having our very first climate change hui, and you're invited, Peter and Mayor Tracy. But you're not allowed to talk all day, Peter, I've been told. You and I have got to sit in the corner and be quiet, apparently. We've been told it's the People's Day. But anyway, I'm so excited about that because Peter and I've been in the climate space for years. I think I went to the first hui back in 1994 or something. Finally, my people, Rangitane, are getting the same, they're starting to feel the same urgency that I am. So that's how long sometimes it takes to convert people to to an issue. They all want to be school teachers or nurses but nobody wants to be involved in climate change. We're a bit weird in that sense, aren't we, Peter? But yeah, so that's happening. So I think, for Tararua District Council, we stay in that space because we have been lucky enough to have had an incident, Gabrielle, that Cyclone Gabrielle that we came out of pretty well unscathed, if you like, in a sense that, we didn't lose lives. And it's taught us a lesson and we're gearing up. School rate remission.
Have you got much more around?
No. That's the school rate remission. No. No, don't worry about that one. There was another one I had in my head, but it's not really. Yeah, I think that was all mine.
Okay, I've got some other matters, but I'll be quick.
Through your document, you talked about integration of services. This is something we're actually doing ourselves and currently exploring with Rangitangia, Wairarapa and Tumaidara as well. Basically, because we need better skills. We need, we're going to need water scientists. We're going to need people who can actually provide us with a deeper level of knowledge and subject areas, and we just can't afford to fund them as one entity. Up in Tararua here, we need to be part of a bigger entity. So we really support that. As part of that, we've spoken recently to social services in Paiatua, and Rangitangi are keen to advance a conversation to establish a community hub in Paiatua in your town hall, and we want to take that off your hands. As a leasee, as a joint agency venture. Internationally, this is a model that's working very well, but it's also working very well in New Zealand's provincial towns where people who may be using one social service don't have to walk up the other end of the street to come then back and to and fro. You currently got a venue that even you guys don't use. You prefer to go to the sports park or across the road. We've run all those social service agencies are bleeding financially because they're all leasing places. So we actually think this is just a no-brainer. It's an ideal place to try it. So I'm meeting with Carter in early July to advance that conversation. I guess, you guys are saying it. We actually think it's better to be community-led. Okay, because the success historically where communities lead these type of things, it actually embeds it better. We want to be a party to that, and we'd like you guys obviously to be a party since we're looking to take the keys to your building. But it will actually build your library as well, bring a lot more foot traffic there, give a real sense of place to that area. So we think there's some advantage there. Campgrounds, we know that we currently manage the Dannyburg one, and there's some room for improvement there. Even though it has been improving in number, we can see some scope that needs to change there. We're very keen to participate in the Section 17A review of all the campgrounds. And I guess it's too early to say, but we probably are signalling we'd like to have a wider involvement in that, because we see the opportunity to link that with the work that Mavis and Co are doing on Te Apiti, and the wonderful work that our colleagues back here from Pukaha are doing. We actually have an opportunity to create a domestic tourism product. And yeah, we know it's coming from a small base and we're not Las Vegas, but it's achievable, it's realistic, and there's people will spend money in our shops and keep our communities vibrant and live. So we think there's a great opportunity there. The current 3 water strategy, as somebody who's currently working with many of your council officers on various components, it seems that everyone in council has a role in 3 waters. And if to borrow a phrase, there's too many cooks in the kitchen and it seems messy. We think there's some scope to take some different thinking, and you guys have signaled that you want to come back and do some different thinking. Already New Plymouth and Waikato, areas that are well regarded for rainfall, are signalling they're actually getting less rainfall. So they're actually going to water conservation strategies and water recycling. These are the wet parts of New Zealand. These are probably the things we want to be looking at doing. And we're quite keen to collaborate with council and private sector about a water recycling plant in Dannyburg with the Alliance, who are taking 23% of your current water supply. That could easily be 10. Okay, using technology. So we actually don't want to invest in big infrastructure. We want to get little infrastructure and be smart. That's kind of how we see the future unrolling for our ratepayers and our whānau here. We're at an advanced stage now, and we're going to market on some waste processing plant, and we've been engaging with council officers for some time in that area with the view to actually processing food, green, brown, sludge, biosolids within this district. Okay, and because we won't be able to put it in the landfill much longer, and it's killing you financially to both put it in landfill and to truck it there. Okay, so there's Rangatani, we see waste processing as a key part of a key PO that we want to support, and it actually fits very well with this particular document, which is our environmental plan, for want of a better phrase, and it's a great read. We'll get you all a copy because you should have it. It's essential reading because it actually aligns quite well with what council are wanting to achieve anyway. So we're certainly not apart on this stuff. But again, those are investments that we're looking to do jointly, and I'm looking to meet with Brian to actually borrow a piece of land for 20 years to put that waste processing plant on. So, we want to borrow that piece of land because your engineers tell us that's the best place to put it to make your systems work better. Okay, so these collaborations they've got engineering and logic behind them. There's lineal processes that we need to work with. We also support in principle the exploration of a joint 3 waters entity with the 3 Wairarapa councils. From Rangatani, Tamakinui Aotearoa's perspective, our communities of interest are with our whānau in the Wairarapa. We settled with them. They are the people that we historically used to trade with and move between. we already know Hawke's Bay are kind of well down a path and probably not wanting Tauranga to join them. And we can't really see what's the purpose of working with Horizons because they kind of don't really
Yeah.
like us.
Mm.
We've just not seen anything really pro Tauranga from anyone in Horizons. You guys can be more discreet than that, but your smiles tell the whole story.
Being recorded.
Great. Maori purpose zones. If you're not aware of this one, this is something that's fast sweeping through New Zealand. District plans adopting Maori purpose zone. It isn't scary. It basically allows Māori to use whenua Māori in ways that support their cultural practice, but also supports papakainga. We're currently running a series of papakainga trainings with 12 whānau groups who are looking at developing that on their own whenua. This is a good thing. These are new homes. These are people living in a way that they want to live, and yet they're still going to comply with every aspect of the district plan. Okay, we have to do things right, and no one's saying that, but we are currently talking with Amy and her crew. I've stolen paperwork from so many councils and given it to her, and we hope to go to a number of public meetings to explain that concept, and we'd like to do that alongside council. So this is an invitation of partnership. It is good for all people in Tauranga. I guess we get the odd little niggle like you do. And this morning I had some whānau from the Paihātua Marae tell me how an ongoing saga of no one cleaning the Huxley and maintaining the Huxley drain means that water keeps coming closer and closer to the marae every time we get rain. Okay. Apparently, this has been one of those things that Tauranga District Council says this is Horizons, baby, and then Horizons do nothing. Okay. Shall we just get it done and send them the invoice? Honestly, it's kind of got to that stage because no one's cleaning the drain. Okay. Growth strategy. We really like the idea. We think it's only partly done. Okay, we had some issues around identifying additional industrial land during that exercise, and timing meant that we probably need to revisit that because we are going to need a little bit more light industry and stuff like that. We've already seen that stuff work really well on the south side of Hastings, and there is actually a growing appetite, we're told, by real estate and other people. We can't just do the plan and put it on the shelf and say, oh, the unicorns and the rainbows are going to take care of that. We actually need to say, we've done the early part of it. What's the next step? We invite you to come back and say, where do we go now? Because we think that's kind of an exciting piece of work, but it's not going to happen by chance. We've actually got to be intentional. Anything more?
No, I think you've said enough.
Up in my chair, Aaron.
Yeah, Aaron's chair of Te Tamarua Trust. Yes, I did have quite a bit to say, Aaron, just had quite a bit more.
It's not very long to
No, but anyway, no, that is pretty much how we're placed at the moment for Rangitane. And I do want to just reiterate our relationship of 25 years. And in terms of our Te Reti responsibilities, I have confidence that this council will continue considering, the rhetoric that's happening out of Wellington at the moment. But we've gone too far down the track to go backwards in our relationship. We need to trust the system that we've created amongst and the relationship that we've created amongst each other. We need to trust that we are all heading in the same direction. that we want the best for our community, for Tararua, for Tāmaki Nui Arua. And we need to trust that we can actually do that together. That, you know, we don't want to let some outside rhetoric hinder our progress, because we have progressed a long way. We have come a long way, and I just don't want that to, because the long-term plan, the 10-year long-term plan is hard enough without having all this other political stuff. I'm a political beast myself, and I can have that argument, but I love the way we are at the moment. This is how I want it to be to go forward, eh? We'll be right. We want to work with you. We want to be in your corner. We want to support you, and we do. Do you know how many times I go out of this room and I tell my people they're still skeptical. You mean, what do you say? Even that group that I bought here the other night, one of them walked out because they still have distrust. She had distrust in the system. She says, oh no, they're just talking a lot of rubbish. And that's the reality. I understand you because I'm around you all the time, and you know I pull you up. If I see that you're heading off in the wrong direction, you know that. But I have more trust and faith in you now than I have before. For all the years I've been working in the space. But our people, there are still people amongst us who have distrust. People have been hurt. But you know, we can manage that. Yeah.
Yeah.
All good.
Wonderful. I've just got a couple of questions before we do go to lunch. Councillor Wards and Councillor Petty Weber.
Thank you, Tracy, and fantastic kōrero. Let me remind you, Lorraine, and you reflected on it during your discussion with us today. The first trip you and I did after Gabriel, we shared a posting at the end of that
Yes.
where Tracy supported us to do. And I remember the words that you used, that we're going to have to work hard at supporting this community, but we've got some tough decisions to make. And so my question to a lot of the submitters throughout this process has been, because you've talked about a lot of the options and given us the context, but what would be the 2 or 3 top priorities that we as a council need to deliberate on to ensure we do make a difference, we acknowledge what people have been telling us through this process, but we have to make some tough decisions. And if you're sitting in this seat and you've sat beside us through this, we have to come to a point where we have to make some decisions. What would be the 2 or 3 top ones?
I'll give you one of mine.
I don't know if it's going to be yours or Sean's or...
I'm getting it first. Papakainga. Why? Because we have it happening in this district, right beside the marae. Oh gosh, I can't think of the other places. But anyway, the thing is, it comes from our people because it's different. It's unique to us as Māori. I mean, you have your granny houses on the end of your houses and stuff, but we can have up to 10 or 12 or whatever the land is. We can put our people on. We can house them. So Papakainga is one.
Out of the options that we've had,
Yeah.
and subsequent to that, I'm curious to understand, you came out and you said we need 6 years of roots,
Yeah.
6 years of rates smoothing, and yet I've sat beside you in other hui, and you've said we can't load up
But
the
you see, this is the
yeah,
thing to our people. I can't say my opinion.
no,
I said that to you all, that I've sat around this table, I've listened and I've had input, and most of the time I've got my way, only because I can, no, I mean, in terms of the Te Tiriti issues and stuff like that. But on those sorts of issues, I could pay up straight away, but a lot of our people can't.
Yeah.
And I have to listen to them.
And the truth is that both Lorraine and I, we have personal views, but
Yeah.
they've got to be put aside for the group view. I'm right wing of Attila the Hun. Okay, so I'd be slash and burn everywhere personally, but that isn't what our people want,
No.
and it's not what our people need. Okay, so what we've come today is to talk about what our people need, and our people struggle to pay the basics. Okay, we don't want to further burden them.
So
But we,
what was your key one?
I think we've got to have hope. We've got to kind of give our communities hope, and things like the pool give some hope. Okay, but if we don't do that, it's kind of last one who leaves, turn the lights out stuff, and we don't want that. We've had a growth aspiration, you know. Can you imagine what this place would be like with another 3,000 people in 5 years? And when I talk to Peter over coffee on Tuesday mornings, you know, we often imagine another 10 or 20,000 people. But the community will be a very different looking people. Because if you go around any part of Auckland now, it looks more like Mumbai or somewhere in Asia. Okay, because the communities have changed as those people have come in and been part of it. We're not leaving, but we're gonna change because we're gonna grow. We've got no choice.
Okay.
If we have a first question.
Just quickly, ngā mihi nui kura, and extended rangatani whānau who come along. There was just one topic, it was in the other topics that you haven't talked about was Urupā. Are you talking about like out at Kaitoki, or are you talking about our Mangatara?
It was that we had that discussion, remember?
Yeah.
We talked about Urupā and council considering some poha to Urupā. Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
that's right.
It was just a whānau member asked me and I thought I'd put it on the agenda, but then I thought, oh, we're running out of time. But yeah, I was in those discussions when we talked about, and I read an Urupā committee meeting, which Aaron's dad sent me the other day, and I don't know, 19 something, where I was on the committee then, and we started to give $500 to the Urupā, and that covered, and the committee said that has covered our petrol for the year. So we started that, I can't remember, 1996, I think it was, that meeting that was given to me, and it had in that meeting minutes how we'd gone and we'd given $500 way back then. Yeah, that's why that was on a piece of paper.
We are going to adjourn for lunch, but did you want to go and your wife join us for lunch? That would be lovely. Did you want to close us out of the meeting?
I'm going to read you something, but what time? Look, it's not, I think it's to because you're leaders in our community, we're going to put a something out into the paper. And we want to say this as
Rangitane, because it's really impinging on us at the moment as people. We are in the fight for our life in terms of what's happening with the coalition. There are things that are impacting on us as leaders that we're having to support our people in. So it's just a short one. The movement is Toitu Te Tiriti, honour the treaty. It has been a massive few weeks for Māori and supporters, with tens of thousands taking action against the coalition government's destructive and divisive policies, fast-track bill and other offensive anti-Māori attacks. Tu Toi Tiriti is a movement that is tupuna-inspired, Tiriti-based, mana motuhake-driven and mokopuna-focused. The intent is to demonstrate the beginning of a unified Aotearoa New Zealand response to the coalition government's assault on tangata whenua and our nation's founding document, Te Reti o Waitangi. Tararua Tamaki Nui Arua residents will have different levels of understanding of why Māori are so offended and reactionary to this current government's anti-Māori policies. Policies that will move our country away from one that places Te Reti at its heart and closer to one that is anti-Māori and divided. 24% of Tararua demographics, Māori, nearly 1 million Māori in Aotearoa. We are not going away. There is a fear amongst Māori about the future of our mokopuna. Our tupuna have endured so much for us to be where we are today. These anti-Māori policies will batter us for at least 3 years and scar us for many more. It will give those with anti-Māori views the courage to share and to foster their views more openly in our communities. The Toitū Te Reti movement is open for anyone to be part of, whether you are Māori or non-Māori. It's about learning together, supporting each other and getting out and talking about it with our friends, whānau and community. Find like-minded people and learn together. Don't let ignorance, fear and apathy determine your opinion on why Māori and their supporters in your communities are having the courage to stand up, show up and speak up against the government's pushback on Māori rights. Transformation will never feel comfortable and requires that we take a risk together and rely on each other. You will witness a lot more of this mana motuhake actions, self-determination and control over our destiny in the future. Te Reo Māori has been a huge revitalisation, seen huge revitalisation over the past 40 years after being on the brink of extinction. The way Te Reo Māori was going and the thousands of Māori and non-Māori who have committed to learning Te Reo Māori is unprecedented in these times. The first assault the government actioned immediately after the elections was on our Reo Māori, the indigenous language of Aotearoa, the first language of many of our mokopuna and mokopuna to come. This example alone of this coalition government and anti-Māori policies gives us plenty of reason for Māori to stand up passively and say, this isn't right. We must make mokopuna decisions, be brave and truthful. Don't let our prejudice overshadow our intelligence. Let us take a step back and support each other, ensuring that we make Tararua, Tamaki Nui Arua culturally safe and respectful to live in. This is a whakatauki often shared by Mayor Tracy, and I'd like to close with that. Let the winds of the Ruahine give you strength. Let the waters of the Manawatu nourish you, for we are the pounamu of Te Tāpiri Nui o Whātunga. So you'll see that in the paper, and that's the reason why we're doing it, is because this is how we're feeling. We're in panic mode about our mokopuna under this current government. And we're wanting people to share that and to understand it. We're prepared, Rangitani are prepared to help people to understand it. So anytime you want to talk to us or ask us, most welcome to come and see us. Kia ora, everybody.
Thank you. Councillors, we are a bit over time. Are you happy to adjourn for 25 minutes for lunch?
What have you got on the same night? Same thing.
So we're going to reconvene the meeting. Right, so we're still in the Finance and Performance Committee meeting. We've just reconvened after lunch. So we are now coming to next item on the agenda. So which is 3.2. Recommendation, there's on page 9. Ellie, did you want to talk to this report at all? Yeah, so we're going to receive the report, and the Finance and Performance Committee provide direction to officers on matters to be considered at the Finance and Performance Committee meeting scheduled for the 19th of July 2024 as follows. So I'll take the report as read. Nineteenth of June. The typo. Okay, so just note the typo on that page. It's actually the 19th of June. So page 9.
Yeah.
I'll take the report as read. If there's any questions before, councillors, what I thought I'd do is go through each of the consultation items and ask for any direction or any information that you want officers to provide for that report, if everyone's comfortable with that. And then at the end, go through any of the other matters or parts that were raised in the submissions that you might like information on. Okay, everyone's comfortable with that. No questions on the report. Right, so rate smoothing was the first consultation item up. Is there any further information that you want the council staff to bring back? Councillor Gilmore?
Thanks very much, Mayor Tracy. Yep, I'm really keen to see some more information on what the sector splits will look like if we went for a 3-year smooth or no smooth, knowing that it's been distorted somewhat by unfunding roading depreciation. So I'm quite keen to see, particularly in the urban sector, what the average rates might look like if we take an alternative option.
Clarification, I guess, is to be factored in. Because you're right, the other options actually impacted how the rate distribution is, especially the rate smoothing. So I guess it's, sorry, not rate smoothing, the NLTP funding and also the roading differential that we apply, cost and impact. So we do it, I guess, inclusive of all the other options. I mean, this is like the last option that we run when we have made all the other changes, and then we look to see how the rate smoothing, given the sector impact of the 3 options, not just the
Sorry, the same thing, Councillor Gilmore.
Thanks, Mayor Tracy. Potentially, yeah. I think that's fine. What I would be comfortable if we were provided that information on them based off our preferred options for the other pieces. So that's how the first part was generated. So it gives us a like for like.
Were there any other thoughts, councillors? Want any more information coming back on the rate smoothing? It was a very, there was a lot of different views around it, and I'm looking forward just to seeing how many of those were in support. But actually, we did hear quite a bit in the hearings over the last 2 days. So agreed that we'll have to see what that looks like with the other parts. But we're just sending that signal that we would like to see that what that looks like for no smoothing and for 3 years. Thank you. Okay. Right, the Pahiatoa swimming pool. We had quite a bit of information around this. So is there any further information that, sorry, So is there any further information that people would like on this one? And I guess I asked, one of the questions I asked today was around the 17A review with the Taura Aquatic Community Trust, just to see what that's looked like. And I was pleased to hear them say that they would be keen to take part in that, to understand what our polls look like in the future and the priority for that work. But is there any other information people would like back on the poll, given we had some concerns around the operational costs of that? I'll go Councillor Sutherland, then Councillor Gilmore and Long.
Yes, I just think Mr. Tim's opposite. Yes, I think so.
Interested within the sports or two submission really. Given that some time's gone past since we had the exist report, but there was discussions yesterday about from councillors to Raylene and Louise, but the thing, and I really just want to make a bit of a comment more than anything else, because we talked about the girls offered that there was going to be a 60,000 proposed loss or shortfall in year 2, etc. But under the model that was proposed with exist, what we've got to take note of, we're going to be talking 160,000 or so renewals or depreciation per year if we take hold of this pool. This is something we're going to consider. And the exist reports also offered up a model where CLM or someone might take management of the pool, and they were talking $250,000 a year cost to that. We hadn't decided whether, but there are, we need to consider this seriously. There will be significant costs. The Dannevirke pool was talked about $1,000 a week, which is fair enough, but a day, and that could well be the same. Because if the model that is mooted in the report comes in, we will have depreciation to account for, and we will have to seriously consider a management option, which that's just what it is. But we do just need to think. The operational costs are something that have been discussed. It's just a comment more than anything. That if obviously there's a lot of twos and fro's with this pool, and the community obviously keen to know, but my personal view is, should we? It's probably a discussion again, but this no comment on the costs.
Councillor Sutherland, the Chief Executive's just suggested we bring back for deliberations and actually have those costs there so that they're actually in front of everyone, so that they're there and part of the decision-making process. Would that information help? Yeah, so we'll do it if staff could do that. Thank you very much. Councillor Gilmore.
Comment there or suggestion covered my question.
Along, then Councillor Johns, then Councillor Wards.
Through you, Mayor Tracy, that has been partly answered for me, but the other one was, I know we've done repair work on the existing pool. Has that been written off altogether? Should we be looking at trying to repair that or find out where the leaks are status? That's all. Question.
I don't believe we have seen a report on the current leaks. We have heard that they haven't been successful, but I don't believe we've had a report back on what that entails or what's been tried. But that would be, that would be a full, to be full and thorough, So the project management office can put something forward for that. That's great, Councillor Johns.
My concerns are the ongoing operational costs, and Kerry could be quite right. Could be similar to Ice Splash, but the committee have put forward the proposition, or in their argument, that it'll be substantially less costly than Ice Splash because of the sprung style of build. not quite sure why that would be the case, but do, what are they called? Aquatic Trust, do they have any information or examples from other sprung pool operations around the place that we could give, that might give us confidence?
Thanks, Councillor Johns. So there is some information in the project management office, have some on the sprung pool structures, but actually they could make contact with the Christchurch operation, which would now, in my, that would have been open a year really since we went to the Local Government New Zealand conference. They may have some more, more insights to share around costs. Yeah, so I think that would be good. We'll get that brought back as part of the report. Councillor Wards and then Councillor Wallace.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Tracy. The beauty of all of these submissions is you get to have a good listen and have a bit of a mull. And so based on what I heard yesterday and again today, I would be keen for the staff, dear old Mike might get called on for this one, but I would like to see what would happen if that 2.5, some people thought it was only 2, but it's 2.5, was spread across year 1 and 2. I want to see what the operational costs would be and when they'd kick in. I want to see, are we able to not do anything at all on the old stuff? I want to understand, is there any BAU sitting in our budgets that are to keep the old one ticking over? If we did nothing for 2 years, we shut the gate. I want to see what that looks like. Can we potentially sell the pool? And which year would that end up in? And I want us to prioritise the conduct of the Section 17A, because a comment Brian made yesterday, and you're going to think, what on earth did I say? Is potentially, while we wait and or when the Section 17A, we could potentially build this pool and not open the doors until. So I want to see a rejig of the timing of how we might. I know you're looking at me, Alison, going, what the hell are you talking about, Sharon?
Confused because.
Well, I'm trying, I'm not presupposing what our decision might be, but I would like to see, because I'd always come into these submissions thinking, give us the Section 17A review so we're consistent, we're making good, prudent decisions, rather than let's open a wang dang pool and then, oh goodness me, the Section 17A review said no, we've done that. However, I think there is room to manoeuvre, and I mean, dear old Tony Rhodes, he was the one who said if you split from year 1 to year 2, and that's why I want to eyeball Mike and say, potentially it's going to be a carryover anyway, Mike, let's, but I want to see a timeline, because if we said yes tomorrow, it would still take time for them to put a shovel in the ground. I just want to see a revised timeline with a rejigging of including a prioritised Section 17A, a split of the drawdown of the 2.5 million, not spending anything on the old pool, and what would be the feedback from the community if they didn't have a pool for 2 years. I know I'm throwing it out there, but this is some of the iterations that I think we've been challenged to think about now.
No, it's a fair comment, and from our perspective, we want to provide as much information as we can. But given that we've got a week, actually got 2 days to provide this information, so we've got lunchtime Friday, I think, to prepare the report. But in saying that, I know Mike has been doing a lot of work around some of the project stuff. So in terms of the actual timelines, we wouldn't know those necessarily until we engage the contractor in terms of their availability as well. So it might be, but in saying that, we could hypothetically provide
3-year program look like, not necessarily the start date, but that we can then overlay that.
So these are quite quick in terms of the build timeframes, because they're pretty much kit sets that they join together. But we'll commit to provide as much information as we can. We will talk with the company that produces this type of pool in terms of what they can provide regarding that. In terms of the splitting of it, it's, and I think I mentioned this yesterday, we would only draw down on what we need at the time of. So if we didn't need it all up front, we would have drawn it all down. We would just draw down when it was required.
Yeah, but that gives us, by rescheduling when that drawdown, oh, sorry, Matt, sorry, Tracy. But if because we've loaded it all up front, what would happen if we didn't load it all at the same time?
I don't think we loaded it all up.
We have.
Go to Raj and then Councillor Franklin's got a comment.
I just want to get some clarification. Brian is right in a sense that we would provide as much information and scenarios to you so you can make an informed decision. But I just want to clarify that if we are looking to move out over 1 or 2 years, that means the construction is not in one season or in 1 year, the construction is in 2 years. Because that's what I'm hearing, to say that to spread out the loan, it's different from the physical construction, because we are spreading the loan and repayment over 20 years of the asset. I think what I hear you say is that if, let's say, we don't start construction, correct me if I'm wrong, Councillor Sharon, don't start and finish the construction in 1 year. We spread it across 2 years so that the operational cost kicks in year 2 and not in year 1. Or are you saying that we do it in year 1?
No, I would like to understand, to buy some time to get the reassurance from a Section 17A, also to buy us a little bit of less, I'm trying to bring the rates down effectively. Well,
If you mind me, Tracy, what we could do though is that the 17A review needs to be done to inform the next annual plan. So that would give us, so if we can get that done, and that will mean that it has to be done by the end of this year. So we will try and get someone involved in that as soon as possible. But once again, funding for that becomes available on the 1st of August. So we have that window from 1st of August to help us inform the annual plan, and then you'll know. But I hear what you're saying though, if all of a sudden those operational costs are $1 gazillion, we're stuck holding that. So I hear that the information in terms of the operational costs is really, really important. And I guess the best we can do for now is look at operational costs of similar pools in other locations to help make that decision. But beyond that, we won't know that until the 17A reviews potentially finished, because whatever that model might be across everywhere, more than likely, what is the cost for that particular pool? So, but in terms of the drawdown of the loan, because it's spread across 20 years, it'll make very little difference.
So what I'm hearing is that in the sequence of events, we would like to do the 17A first to inform what we want to do in swimming pool. Whether we are approving the Pai Toa pool to go ahead subject to. That means what I'm hearing, sequence of events is not go ahead and do the Pai Toa. Correct me if I'm wrong, if I got this right. Not go ahead and do the Pai Toa swimming pool in terms of going out procuring construction. Do the 17A first. That informs the Pai Toa. So you get an understanding of what the cost and how we deliver that service. Then we go ahead and once that's finished, that's signed off, then we implement the 17A. Or
Then what I'm hearing is that is one part that councillors would like to have a look at. Well, no, it's I guess for me, if you're talking about good governance, data drives good decisions, and there was 2 pieces of data for me. There was the 17A, which has been signalled, and I'm quite keen to understand, the district-wide pools, but also Sport Manawatu talked about the need, and they talked about another report. Has that report or has that work been done? on the business case. Okay, okay. Right, thank you. Councillor Franklin.
Thank you, Your Worship. The only thing that concerns me with the delaying over 2 years is we all know that building costs of anything are climbing constantly. And what we could end up with is actually costing us more if we delay, if the, like Raj says, the loan's there to be drawn down, if you delay that, and I know for a fact that that pool they've quoted will take 8 months from the time the spade goes in the ground till it's finished. That's the only information I can tell, but they were willing to certainly give you the figures that they understand.
We're not making any decision here, just what information we want to come. Councillor Gilmore.
Have you seen my finger go up?
No, I didn't.
Right, I'll just make sure. I'll go like that next time. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Gilmore, then Councillor Wallace.
Thanks very much, Mayor Tracy. Just the last bit, especially if we're looking at some of this other information, an important piece of this puzzle, if we could add it to the report, is the impact on any delay on the already in place. So just making sure that we understand the potential consequences of a delay, which might help our decision making.
Thanks, Councillor Gilmore. Councillor Wallace.
Thank you, Mayor Tracy. Yeah, on page 13 at the present time, that's, correct me if I'm wrong, it's $2.90 for swimming pools in the rates, right? So that doesn't include the upgrade of the new Paitoa because it doesn't exist cost, right? Because this is what worries me.
No, sorry, that is just year one's rates. Year two is an operational budget for the Paitoa pool.
It's not on this page.
It's not on that page, no.
That's my point. We don't know enough. Going back to what Sharon and Scott said, it's about the information. And hey, as I said yesterday when I was out of order, are we recording? Yes, we are. But it's not about the feel-good factor. I would like to give pools to everybody, but we're on a point of governance. And no, technically I wasn't out of order, by the way. But anyhow, yeah, we have to look at this seriously because, as that old adage says, today's decisions, tomorrow's mistakes. It scares me. It really scares me because we've got on another bit of paper here about we're going to increase the pain. We're going to defer the pain about rate smoothing. But at the end of the day, we're still going to have a problem.
So would you in there, when I'm talking about what information you need to make a decision, either way, would you like to see what that little circle, $2.90 for swimming pools, would you like to see what that would look like with the Paitoa pool?
I would really like to try to figure out in my mind that the operational costs and what's going to be loaded onto this council going forward. And I know I've read that document, their business case and all that, but I cannot see it with a clear lens. I cannot, hand on heart, figure it out.
And if you go with what Sharon said, all those aspects, what Sharon brought, very well presented there, Sharon. Thank you.
So the team will bring back that information and data so that it's there in the paper to make a decision.
Thank you.
Right, nothing further. There'll be a lot of work to do, Raj, on the Paitoa swimming pool, but we always knew that this was going to be the case. It's a very big difference. Right, the National Land Transport Program, and this one, this one is going to take some work, Raj, because our, the signals that we have got have changed on this. And I did talk to the team, so obviously Brian and I have got a meeting with Waka Kotahi, and we'll certainly be, discussing this. But at this very point in time, we have received a funding. We haven't had our funding bid accepted. It's been lowered. So can we understand what that looks like? And I think, and I guess that the choice that councillors will need to make is, do we stick to our funding envelope or are we asking for more rates? Now I've signalled that I don't believe we can. Yeah. So Councillor Sutherland.
Thanks, Mr. Tracy. I think during submissions, I never even talked about this. But to me, basically, number three's been, was thrown out the window in a way, wasn't it? With Wakate's announcement, 3.5 million off and 1.4 of the, really, I think we've sort of got to step this back to square one a little bit here, aren't we? Or we've got to probably relook at this through, yeah. I mean, we did have those 1, 2 and 3 options when we did the asset management plan for roading, and we're probably being forced back down the track. But anyway, that's.
I guess our approach would be is we always had this so-called to and fro with Waka Kotahi. We always put a bid in front of them and they'll come back to us and tell us where they have landed and then they'll refine it towards the end. So now they've given us a good indication as to where it sits. So it looks like though we put a bid for, Sarah can jump in if I got it wrong, we put a bid for 73. We had discussions with the advisor to say, you're not going to get 73. So in our LTP, we brought it down to 60. So that's in our budget. That's how we've modeled it here. And now they've given us an indication that it's going to be less than 60, which is about 57 million, which is higher than the option 1 that we, higher than the option 2. No, which is option 2.
63.
So the question, I guess, for us here is that now that Waka Kotahi has come back with the funding envelope, do we look to accept it and match it with council share? I mean, that's what we have. Or are we looking to say, okay, is there any option because of affordability you want to pare back down? That would then require us to talk to Hamish and Co. to look at what's the impact is it on the roading program. Yeah. So I think it'll be. Yeah. So I think if they have come back down lower than our bid, I guess the first option then we run is run with that bid and look at what's council share, what's the rates impact that's going to be. At the same time, we'll work with Terra Alliance to figure out what's the impact of that. It's an audit program, what the risk we're exposing ourselves to. And then whether I'll take the advice and whether we need to come back with another option, which is lower, if so council decides to look at it because of affordability issues, or we just run with that model as a preferred model and comparing that with our preferred model in the LTP consultation.
Councillor Johns.
Just a point of clarification. I think it was Friday last week, an email came up with our following day, I think, or it may have been the same day, Waka Kotahi announced, or the government rather, announced dollars additional money going into roading.
So in a nutshell, and Raj, you can probably word this better, but in a nutshell, the funding bid, we lost more in the operational side than we did in the pothole side. So on a technicality, the government was correct. They're giving us more money for potholes. It wasn't what we asked for, but they're giving us more than we received in the last National Land Transport Plan bid. But we actually lost more than what we had anticipated in the operational side. So that's the side that I'm concerned about. Yeah. And I understand that when that came out, the team started looking at that then and there out at the Alliance. So that would be great to have that back, Raj. Pretty sure they were all very disappointed.
Tracy, I'm just looking at the letter now again. 59 million.
3 years, right?
58 million, so 3 million. So that's in a sense is what option 2 was.
Option 2 is inflated numbers. So option 1 was our variable, which is inflated. So if you uninflate, you would get back to your 62.
Somewhere between option 2 and option 1.
We're a little bit.
slightly better than the option two.
Right, economic and community development. There were a lot of submissions around this. Councillors, what direction? Okay. To see here, sorry, Councillor Gilmore.
Thanks very much, Mayor Trustees, who's come up with conversations and in a number of submissions, looking at the contestable fund in particular. So I would be, and this sort of goes back to local people being best placed to make local decisions. I'd be quite keen for us to see how that contestable fund could be still distributed by local community committees or community boards, with the proviso that there are very clear guidelines. So probably the same guidelines that would be developed if it was a contestable fund. I want to do this for a couple of reasons. I'm keen to see this information. One, I think there's a desire to do it, and I agree that local people are best placed to make local decisions, but I also don't want to increase the additional burden on our staff having to administer this fund. So I'd be quite keen to see how that might look. Doesn't need a lot of detail.
I'll check it here.
Clarification.
So just for clarification, the amounts don't change though. So what's budgeted in the LTP remains the same. It's the distribution of how will that, and the question would be, would that make a difference to the decision that you will potentially make around that? Just thinking if the decision was to go with that amount, it's just the language around it that will change in terms of how it's managed. So more of a management side rather than you see what I mean? I'm just trying to get.
Can I speak? Thanks for the clarification, because you're right, it is actually in two parts. So I think for us to make a decision on the 19th, we can look at the amounts for that, because I think that's actually quite a straightforward decision of, we could propose a motion to increase that amount or reduce that amount. What I'm keen on is the mechanics and making sure that we're ready when we go to adopt the LTP, to pick up that community design that is there for local communities that will be making those decisions. That's the process part that I'm most looking for in this question.
Just wondering if that's a LTP decision or just something you could direct in terms of the process will be. I just don't.
It's a specific line in the consultation.
Yeah, but there's no change in terms of, potentially no change into amounts or impacts. We're now going how the fund will be managed. A contestable fund could mean giving it to our community boards and they look after it. It's still a contestable fund. It's just who's managing it changes, and I don't think we need that as a. You can decide that won't be staff. That's going to be given to the boards, and they will manage it.
Thank you. Yeah, I do absolutely. So maybe I'll make this a little bit simpler. Totally happy with that. I suppose let's just make sure that staff are aware that that could be on the table of how it was, because I'd hate for the team to use a whole lot of time creating something that we might look at changing. So I'm happy that direction can be given when you make that decision. Thank you.
Councillor Johns and Councillor Willett.
Yes, I have the same view as Councillor Gilmore insofar as it's concerned, or the distribution is concerned. Two sides to this. One is funds for community distribution by community boards and committees, and the other is the money spent on economic development. And option one, option two is status quo. option one is reduce by a given amount. But what you're saying is the amount that is budgeted to go to the community boards and committees wouldn't diminish.
So I think we're just talking about the $100,000 contestable fund will still be a contestable fund. It's how that is managed going forward may not be council that manages it, as in council staff.
Councillor Wallace, then Councillor Woods.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Tracy. You're looking at just sticking with the document here, the option one and option two. Yeah, and as we all, yeah, the submissions and as someone pointed out to me at lunchtime, hearing people talk gives a lot of weight, and it's good, and it makes you reflect. See, I would. No, we're not allowed to say that. I would be thinking very hard about what the paper, we prefer this option now because of what the submission program's about. And if you look at that, read that option too, the status quo, personally, I think that's a very fair. Admittedly, it's a 1.1% of our rates, but I think the 1.1% there, the payback from the social, economical, and from the communities would be 900% better than the one above it now. 1.1% would create a whole heap of good feeling at the other side.
Is there any further information that you would want to come back that would help you make that decision specifically?
Well, no, we've got this basically on page 32. And we had all that workshop, so I'm not going to ask for any more information. I think we just need to really think hard about the points that have been made about community boards, et cetera, because everyone's doing a great job, but it's just the money side.
Councillor Woods.
Yeah. Just changed my mind, but the information that I'd like clarified, Brian, is what would fit into the contestable bit versus the legacy scholarships and funds and stuff. That's all gone, right? Don't need any more information then. On that part.
I think for me, I'm keen to understand, so there was two Main Street groups that we didn't hear from, and one was because of illness, and that's out at Northwood, around what that funding means to them. And in that particular community, I know it's quite important, so I'd just be keen to understand, how in that contestable funding, how our smaller communities are still looked after. You're talking, if that contestable funding you're looking at being administered by community boards, how does the Northwood promotions go? And Pongaroa Way to Go did submit, Ikirahona Howtown didn't submit, but what does that Main Street funding look like? And there was just, I was very aware that we didn't hear from Northwood Promotions, and I know that when I made those calls, they reflected to me that actually that would collapse Northwood, and it was only due to illness that we didn't get a submission. So I guess I'm just voicing that. You can come back to me. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Tracy. I might have to come back because I'm not specifically sure what was put aside in terms of what we didn't touch, because there were still funds that were the contestable funds, but the board still and the committee still got their funding. I think Northwood and that might have been still included in that, but I'll clarify that in the report. That the other option would be the 100K if it was what council decided. It's maybe then you could go into detail of how that's distributed.
Anything further there? And Deputy Mayor, could I get you just to message Councillor Chase and see if there was anything that was on her mind? I know she wasn't well, but I just wouldn't like to not have that opportunity. Okay, so that's everything on economic and community development. Councillor Wards? No.
As long as we treat that contestable fund option separately from the economic development discussion.
Thank you. I agree. Okay. Right, differential roading rates. Councillor Sullivan, I'm excited, so up you go.
Confused. No, I must admit, I've listened, I've read everything about about this, the differential rating rates, and then I heard some really good submissions, and it's given me a lot of food for thought. And so I've gone back early this morning and looked at some of the other councils, and this topic is on a number of LTPs at the moment. I think it's on Horapreneur, Ruapehu. It's sitting on a number of LTPs with other councils at the moment, and slightly different tack they're taking. So I'm not certain whether we've got it right. Actually, I think there's agreement that our reasoning behind this is right. I'm not sure we've got the method right, and I don't know whether there is a perfect method actually. Sure, other councils might have the same confusion here. The more I sort of read, and I could see that it's so easy with any of the councils that were considering it, and they went out with options to the community to look at slightly different ways. They were looking at, some of them had different methods of trying to rate than we did. So that's my initial opinion.
Councillor.
Tracy, yeah, I listened to what Ed Kite had to say, and a lot of his comments made sense and were correct. However, I think we're going down the right path. We need to hit heavy vehicle users. Forestry uses them. Whether they use them once every 10 years, 28 years is somewhat irrelevant. If it has the effect of lessening the value of forestry land, so be it. That's of no consequence to us as a council, because of additional rates that they incur, the forests incur. But I think we should stick with it. We'll soon find out within 12 months how well that decision is received, but I believe we should stick with it.
I think, Councillor Johns, it's more around what information do you think that it would take to convince other councillors one way or the other whether we've got this right? I'm nervous about whether we've got this entirely right as well, but I don't have the answer of what right would look like. The Wairoa's situation was very different. The process that they used was around the social. Our process was around getting some equity in the roading rates around heavy vehicles. Now, none of us, when we set that direction, knew how that would come out. And now we're saying, I don't know if we like that direction. We heard quite a few people say, actually it's about getting forestry, but actually the direction was it's about heavy vehicle use. So what information do you think could come back to the table that would help us with that?
I don't know if there's any more information we can get, to be fair. The sheep and cattle farmers don't have the very heavy loads. A truck and trailer of sheep or cattle is nowhere near as heavy as a truck and trailer of logs. Nowhere near it. So I don't think that argument stacks up to quite the extent that Ed might
We're not making a decision. We're just trying to extend the direction to the staff of what any information or direction that will help councillors make a decision on the day. Okay, thank you. So I'll go Raj and then Councillor Gilmore and Councillor Wards.
Thank you, Ms. Tracy.
Straight laugh, yeah.
Very quickly then, I think what I may provide in my report is to clarify some of the points that Eckhart has raised. I am on a different page in some of the points that he raised. So I think like what I agree with Councillor Johns, the information is there in the report that we produced from Anthony, in the Infometrics report that we have. What I could do is resurface that and include that in the resolution report, determination report. So you have that information there. Information regards to the tonnage. We have used data from Infometrics that are used tonnage from the last few years. So it's not taking, I guess, a pick. It is taking a snapshot of the tonnage, and we've averaged it. So and I think the way we've done the forestry, and in fact, any tonnages, we're saying that this is a long-term view on the tonnage. So yes, forestry may have different harvesting cycles, the way trucks are being used. Sheep and dairy will have a different, sheep will be different, dairy will be different. I think we factored those elements in. The second thing that I think he raises, if we go down the path of Wairoa or with Southland, they're going to get a huge impact in rates because they do not have a 3-tier as we have. We've got the differential, we've got the fixed, and we've got the general rate component. We still retain the general rate component. Southland didn't have that. Wairoa didn't have that. They applied the full, and they had a higher differential to forestry than we had because we use a limited data. So I think we factor that in. And I think the other thing that gives me a lot of confidence in how we've done it is that we started off with the methodology. We didn't say who we wanted to target. We looked at the principle, which is how do we then allocate a portion of our roading to heavy vehicles because they impact the road a lot differently from others. We went through the rigor and the outcome was, okay, in a sense, aligned to what we wanted in turn, not what we wanted, aligned to where we like. So I think that rigor that we had, and that's why I asked Ellie in a sense, have people looked at the report and challenged it? That means did Ernst Law, did Eckhart pick up that report that we did and really poke holes in the report? And they didn't. And that's why I felt that rigor is there. I think I can stand behind the report and how we've done it. The rationale and reason as to why we went down the path still holds true. And I think that, so I would suggest, I would agree that I'll put more information in the determination so that it brings to light the rationale, the reasons, the study that's behind, and how the methodology is as how we've set the differential rates, and also draw some comparison to other counts, how different. I also would include, I've just been reading while Eckhart was talking, the legal decisions from Wairoa and what the court just said. I think that's quite compelling as to how the decision has been made, where council actually has the ability actually to set rates. And even the word that they use is discriminate among forestry owners. That means we can. So, but I'll just tone it down in a sense.
Councillor Law, and I apologise, I do. I keep a speaking order and I turned the page, blank page.
Through you, Mayor Tracy, no problem with that. Yeah. The first time Infometrics came out, their figure was 22,000 equivalent car trips to a truck, and then we came down to 8,000, which is written here, and that's for a 50-ton truck. There's other industries there that are not carrying 50-ton. It's below that, and that was your next dairy farming is not carrying 50-ton, and also they're not carrying it straight away. They're carrying it on the last farm onto the state highway to go to Paeatua for Tararua. And so there's a big difference here. So that's one that has to be looked at, and I don't think it's fair in here. And the other thing is, it's not our job to affect the value of land. There was a councillor or somebody that said something, and that's not our job, and we should really be stepping away from that. Yeah. Tararua has lost more dairy farms than any province in New Zealand. in the last 5 years. And so, this province has been built on farming. Yep. So I would need more information in that area there, and also the reason why some categories were dropped lower, having a minus on them in these categories, other farming and that sort of thing.
Raj, you'll bring the report back. Around the dairy, Councillor Long, that wasn't raised in any submission that I recall, and Fonterra didn't submit. Can anyone recall any information? I did not read that. Submissions that I've read, and I don't.
I think, sorry, Mayor Tracy, what Councillor Michael's talking about is the way it's presented in our document. It's not actually true. Is that what you get? That's what you're getting at.
Sorry, okay, I wasn't covering that. I was covering the comments around the dairy industry. Okay, yep.
So can I carry on with that?
Yep.
So I would need more information to give me a better enlightenment on how I would vote in that category.
I am thinking bringing that report, we'll cover it off. Raj, if you've got any.
Sorry, is Councillor Long, is this the table you're referring to? I would then refer, I would include in the determination the report that we got Anthony to do, which explains in a lot more detail as to how we arrived at the tonnage, and also why, for example, the question he asked was why were the other sectors had a reduction? Remember, this is just looking at 1.1 million allocated to differential roading rates and how that's being allocated. Yeah, so that's why in some, it's leaning more towards the forestry, the dairies and industrial, commercial and the mining, not the residential and livestock block. Yeah, yeah, but I'll include in my determination extracts from the main report.
Thank you. I've got Councillor Gilmore, Councillor Wards, Councillor Sutherland and Councillor Johns.
I was just my question in some depth.
Councillor Wards.
Thank you, Mayor Tracy. The information that I'd like to have provided, Raj, is around, it was a comment that Ed made that we've acknowledged it's a complex thing we're doing here. What would be the impact in terms of staff time, administration? I'm trying to get a sense of, he was saying complex means more costly. If you're able to give me some sort of ballpark, actually, the systems will cope with it fine, blah, 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 that's all good. So I'd be keen to have some feedback from the staff as to the impact on that. I would really also appreciate a number of because I think what's been the most powerful with some of the submissions is the impact on, and if, for instance, we were able to snapshot a couple of our ratepayers from those sectors across the district, what would that mean? Because the bottom line here is we're not going to make any more money out of this. We're just redistributing the rates. And I think that's been lost in translation somewhere along the line. So I'd be keen to just see, okay, basically we've got dear old, Mr. Gordon out at, this is what it means for him, that differential roading rate. This is what it would, without the names, of course, but just some examples, just so we can feel comfortable that actually, we've had figures presented on another issue where you're going, oh, crap, but this wasn't about getting more rating money there, just to understand what it means. We're not getting any more money out of you. We're just ensuring that because of the use of your land, there is a higher take in that one versus the other one. Just a little bit of real life scenarios, please, Raj, just to confirm that we go this way, none of us are going to be blindsided by.
I can do that, but the challenge I have is whether that's a representation of the 11,000 properties that we have, or the 5,000 urban properties, or I can pick a few of high increases. I'm just concerned that that may not be a fair representation of everyone. I can do that. I can pull up those properties that have got a highest impact and differential in terms of the various sectors and give an example of it. But I'm just concerned that somebody else may come up and say that, you know, in terms of percentage increase will be higher. So I can put few examples, but the caveat is there that it may not be a fair representation of the movements.
I guess I'm trying to not be blindsided by some phone calls we might get, you know, after the 1st of July.
This is August, you'll be fine.
True, Your Worship. What I could do is rather than present an example of properties, I could show you a distribution line. Say that, you know, in the rural sector, so at least then you could see, remember the outliers, the bell curve, so you could see where the outliers and how many there's, at least you could see then the distribution and how many properties are being impacted on the higher side and on the lower side too.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Councillor Sutherland.
Tracy, I've had one go, but I've sort of thinking myself, I'll probably live with this now. I'm thinking it through because we'll get another ping at this. If it's not quite worked, we'll have another annual plan. The thing that I did take today, I have to admit, and Ed got me thinking about this as one other submitter, is that the cost to councils with these forestry cycles and what might happen with carbon forestry in 20, 30 years, we may end up with huge amounts of money needed at different times. We'll rate over the decade, and we, you know, are we in a position? Should we have a fund, a forestry fund? Should we have a war chest? Think about that more. Do we need $5 million in 15 years' time for all the carbon, for the latest? You know, just think about. We won't have it the way we're running our ship now, but should we have it? That's another matter, but that's all.
Something you could even look at the infrastructure committee is how do we have a look at that line of consents that are in place for harvesting and work them into the system. And I know the team have done some work on that. Councillor Johns.
A couple of things, and further to your comment, Mike, milk tankers, let's say they're average 30 tons. You know, they're not full, they're not empty, but they're there every day. Every second day. And going back to Ed's comment about, you know, a 28-year harvest, those big forests, it takes more than a year to harvest the forest. It takes many, many years. And most of them are getting to a point where they're harvesting in perpetuity, sort of. But whether there's a few years when they don't harvest their forest or not, doesn't matter. The total tonnage coming out of that forest will be on the road at some point. Whether it's today, whether it's this year or next year or in 5 years' time, that will all be all using those roads. So it's just a pedantic argument to say, well, look, you know, we don't use the roads for 5 years or 10 years. At some point, they use them to a huge degree, and it makes up for the time that they haven't used the road. So I don't think I think we can ignore that argument really in terms of forestry.
Going to be a good debate. Look forward to having that information come back. Right, can I just move us on? Non-contiguous rating units. I did ask Raj to bring a piece of information back just so that we could have a look at the distances across at where those lay. I know there's a few submissions of giving us ideas of, you know, what, you know, I think 10 kilometres and having a look at the distance, what that would look like and how that impacts. I've asked Raj to bring that back. Raj.
Thank you, Matrix. Yes, team is working on that. What I will include in the determination report is more details and a table summarizing the distances. And I think I gave. Tell me one more granularity in it. So it's like those less than 1K, 1K to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, 20, and everything. So at least then you could see how many properties fit into that and then where they are in terms of location. I think that information will be very helpful.
I
Thanks, Mayor Tracy. Just a really quick one. In that report, Raj, would it also be easy to highlight the administration costs that might be involved? My concern is if we add some extra complexity of 5K, 10K, do we get to a point where that actually becomes an undue burden and it's not worth it? So as long as that's sort of covered in the report as well, because we're trying to come up with these ideas to make things better, not to tie our hands.
Thanks, Councillor Gilmore, and I think that's why I wanted to have a look at that, because yeah, I'm not too sure where that lies. I'll go Councillor Sutherland, then Councillor Petty Weber's got a comment from Councillor Chase.
She's commented on a few things, so do you want me to just do that at the end, or?
On non-contiguous.
She's got non-contiguous rating. How many properties will this affect if we only did it to the properties that were more than 10K distance? Which we've got there. Cool.
Yep. And then just as they come through, if you just read her comments and then we can go back to the ones at the end. Yeah. Just have a look at through those older ones that we've covered and see if we covered them or if there's some new information there. Councillor Sutherland.
Thanks, Mayor Tracy. I'm sort of happy with everyone's thoughts. The thing that what did happen a bit through the submissions was non-economic units. Small blocks of lands popped up quite across the district. And the two submitters this morning were Todd Wheeler and Mark Salmon. But there were other people that had these around that. So I just wondered, it's going to get messy, but we do have a rates remission policy for uneconomic units if they're rural zoned. And that's quite prescriptive what that could be. But I just wondered, it wasn't mentioned by those two ratepayers, but I just wondered whether it's in their ratings policy, but maybe we could have a look at that policy to see if it could be a little more widely used with some of those, open it up a little bit. Probably can't do much through this LTP, can we, with it? But I think we do have lots of those little places, and I don't know how. It'd be interesting how many ratepayers use that one. But just maybe if don't go to too much trouble, Raj. But I think that might be could be quite handy for some of those little blocks.
Interested to know how often that was used.
I got a feeling that in our plan back like 5 years ago, I think was some comment. I had a feeling like only one person or two people might have used that going back a few years, but it might be because it's not well known or acceptable.
Are we able to easily determine how many houses there are in the district as opposed to ratepayers, and compared to ratepayers? For instance, the fellow submitted, three blocks, one house. If there's a house on different blocks, then I don't think it should be. But if there are no houses, then within a certain kilometres, I think they should get relief.
Raj will bring that.
There's a really easy way of finding a number of houses.
That are impacted by. Yeah, I think it's 73 people that are impacted by this.
173 people.
Sorry. Yeah. A couple of different reports if you want to number the houses.
Yeah, similar to that, I've had a person's verbal submission to me. She's got the same situation in Woodville. Over history, she ended up with a whole lot of farms, but they're only little farms, and she's going, if she pays all these different things. So that's probably the information, which I think we've got enough information here. We can have that discussion next week.
I thank you. I don't think there's anything else that you could bring back on that one, Raj. Thank you for that. Okay, town centre refurbishment. I'm not sure that I need any more information on this. Oh, awesome. Okay, other changes. So other things that were consulted on and came up through through the submission process, and I think Brian's already got the team doing some work around cemeteries. So some information will come back through that. Yeah, so that will be there. Councillor Peter Weber.
Go through Naoma's other bits that she had. How much headroom will we have if we don't fund the pool? That was one. No rate smoothing. How will that look in the debt repayment? How that will look in debt repayment? Yep. Were we looking at taking any other loans out, and what is the status with the Pukaha loan? Sorry, were we looking at taking any other loans out, and what is our status with the Pukaha loan? I also had that with the recommendations from Emily, what's the cost to us of doing that? Sorry.
In the current budget, correct me if I'm wrong, Sarah, I think there was about 48,000 per year for interest costs that was given to them as a grant. That's not in the LTP going forward currently.
Thank you, Mayor Tracy. This is Naoma's. What our climate change infrastructure budget could look like if we don't do RRD. RRD. I couldn't work out what that stood for. I'll ask for clarification. Maybe I'll come back to that one. The other couple of things I had, that one rating unit per house for the Mangataraa flats, that's come up a few times. Are we able to have information on that?
Yeah, started the
Yep. Another couple of things I had. What would it cost council to do the smoke-free, vape-free environment policy? What's that?
We've been actually doing it, so it hadn't come up. And I guess it would be, yeah. Angela, we are recording. Okay. Okay. Yep. Thank you. Yep.
Sorry. Is there money in the budget for that, the community board's walkway maintenance?
For that one, I'm waiting for clarification from the infrastructure manager. I sent an email through just to find out of what was planned, and he said it was like the same maintenance that's budgeted for other walkways within the district, but actually I'm still struggling to find out exactly what that means. So I'll pass that to the chief executive. Just in regards, I think with the smoke-free one, yes, they submit every year. I was pleased to see them prioritise that. I thought that was good. None of those policies came without any cost attached to them. So you're keen to do the smoke-free policy, Councillor John? Yes. Okay. I'll just go Sarah first and then Councillor John.
Sorry, Deputy Premier, can I just ask you to get clarification from Naoma? Yeah. On around the rate smoothing section she talked about debt without the debt repayment. Is she wanting to know what the rates increases without the debt repayment? It was just a little blurred from if I have to do the work, I would just like to understand that, sorry.
No rate smoothing, how that will look in debt repayment. So how will it, maybe it's separate.
Maybe I need to ring there and find out.
Let's send another message.
I'll see that other message. Thank you. Sorry.
Councillor Johns.
Thanks, Mayor Tracy. There was one note I made with regard to companion dogs. There was a discussion that should be reduced to $50 or something.
Dog registrations are set by a specific day and out now. Okay. Councillor Gilmore, sorry, I'm just working my way through the list, but yep, go. Councillor Gilmore.
Thanks. I've just got I've got a small list. Would be, and it is quite small. Keen to get some detail on the commercial building water situation that was raised in the submission. I'll find the submission number in a moment, but where someone in a commercial tenant is having to pay for multiple connections. My understanding, and I think it was something Councillor Sutherland mentioned, indicating that that might be quite a unique situation, whereas our policies might not be quite in line to be capturing that. So a tweak may or may not be able to help. So quite keen to make sure that at least that we have a good understanding, and if it's something we can't change, at least we can well explain it and what the rationale is. That's okay.
The Chief Executive's just said, unsure whether that's actually an LTP decision. We can probably deal with that outside of it. So if we slot that into one of the committee meetings to have a look and have an individual look at that one. Yeah.
We'll carry on if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Mayor Tracy. This is a minor one, but it is one that Positively Woodville mentioned as being one of their top priorities when it came to their fees and charges. They wanted us to review the Woodville campground deposit fee. That is something I don't expect officer work on, but that may be a motion on the day. So I just want to highlight that. But perhaps just some rationale again as to why it is set at the figure.
I think it was, well, it comes into fees and charges. It comes into fees and charges. I think it is worth understanding the rationale. So obviously the team have had some challenge and a lot of lost keys, but actually I could see their point with how do you, and I guess what you're trying to solve on one hand for me maybe was going to cost a lot on the other as well, because you've still got to administer taking that bigger deposit and then refunding that bigger deposit as well versus, you know, how many stolen keys. So it was just understanding the rationale, but it is minor. Yeah.
Thanks, Mayor Tracy. I'll just move on to my last one, which isn't a minor one. It's a major one. So some information that I'd like, and we've had quite a few submissions throughout the process asking us to cut costs and to tighten our belts like every other business and household within the country. So I've raised with the CE and the Mayor a proposed motion that I potentially will be making on the 19th. That could go a couple of ways. I had proposed a percentage reduction, but perhaps that might not give the right amount of flexibility. So my question with this is asking if we can have a report from the Chief Executive outlining potential ways that we can make a reduction to operational expenditure and showing us a pathway to be doing that. That will help me base what my motion might be on the day. But asking for some information about that. The other thing I just quickly wanted to highlight included within that is there is my understanding that there is some preliminary work already happening to find ways to rationalise, as we've talked about throughout our consultation document. Perhaps if some of those things can be added in there, because I'm keen for them to be added into our budget so it has a rating impact.
Okay, if Brian will make one comment, then I've got one other one.
I understand the point on cost savings.
So just in regards to the second point, councillor Scott, yes, so basically the work that's outlined in the LTP around integration of services, looking at economic and community development, there's some preliminary thinking and thoughts should that be that decision's made, and we're looking on a sort of a wider aspect of what that could look like. And it's not just around rationalisation, it's actually looking at an improved way of providing the service. In terms of the others, what you potentially could be proposing, the risk with that is that we've consulted on a range of items within the LTP, and then I could come up with ideas outside of the LTP that we haven't potentially consulted on, and based on new information outside of the LTP process, you will potentially base your decision on. That concerns me in terms of the process. I guess we're quite far down the track and we have consulted on the consultation document and we've consulted on the cost of that. Then to say, actually, we're still going to deliver this, but with this envelope, I probably need to take advice on that, because I think audit will look harshly on that, to be perfectly honest, on whether or not that would be a sensible process to be going down. So I understand the reasons for it, but I would need to sort of have a bit more thought around that. Certainly on the first point of view, the first point I made around continuing to rationalise, look at business improvements, absolutely got the commitment from the team to do that.
Very quickly respond, Tracy. Thanks very much. Thanks, Brian. I completely understand that there's some complexities to doing that, particularly at this late stage. So I suppose that's where my request is for you as Chief Executive to find the safest way to be able to achieve that objective. My strong view is that we need to do some things differently. That's a signal I have from the community. I'm open to any suggestions that you might have of how we can shift the rating impact on our ratepayers. Noting in mind, I have some draft motions that I've shared with you. I may completely change what that looks like. All I care about is the outcome and the result. So I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Okay, one from Brian, and then I've got one patiently.
Thank you, Tracy. So what we can do, and part of this report is highlight some of these, really highlight some of the actions and backgrounds we, including everyone, have taken along this journey to try and find those efficiencies, going back to the start when it was 20-something%, and the process that we've gone down to lower that, and then the ongoing commitment in terms of what we've got in the LTP to find further savings that are in there, and we'll highlight some of that as well, and potentially some other work that we can actually do to become more efficient council.
Thanks, Brian. The comment that I had was, I've got, it'd be great if you can bring some of those back. And I think when I've talked to people about the long-term plan, I've started at these other changes and I've talked to them up front about the integration of services. I've talked about the section 17A and the changes in rationalisation and what they will mean, but actually people aren't seeing any of that in what we've got planning. So quite keen, for people. And I guess I've flagged that because change is coming and we do have to change the way that we're doing things. The only comment that I would make is that in those savings, they have to be qualified. And if those savings can't be qualified, then you will get into trouble with audit. So I guess I'm just flagging that. So I've got Councillor Wards, Councillor Wallace, Councillor Sutherland.
Thanks, Mayor Tracy. I mean, I concur with what Councillor Scott is proposing, and I'll look forward to that. The only other little add to the list. And I don't know how much work it would take for Jim and the team would be if we went with the proposal that Susan presented around the DSAs to assist our Main Street team. What might that look like? I mean, is it something that we're allowed to do because, you know, we're obviously a building authority? I appreciate that. But I think some small attempt to investigate, oh, it's a happening thing or no, it's not a happening thing, with the principle of would this in some way over the long term alleviate the potential for all of those shops on the main street to, don't know. If it was going to take years and years, I wouldn't. But I think to do due diligence for our submitters, I think for us to just go, yeah, well, Merry Christmas, that ain't going to happen. At least find a reason why it couldn't happen.
So through me, Tracy, so we will respond to submitters on the outcome of their submission. This will be operational costs to council. Should we do this? There are councils that, to be honest, have done similar around their building. I think Manawatu might have done something around.
No, not at all.
They have. My understanding is that some councils have supported it through their building consent process in terms of a level of detail they provide for that. It does come at a cost around this. So you can, I mean, it's your decision, but it will be an operational cost.
I'm just trying to find a way, if people have come with potential solutions, that is in some way, shape or form investigated or responded to in a positive way, saying thanks, but no thanks. And the reason we can't do it is do that.
The Manawatu district put together a list because there's actually very few people around that can do this. So they put together a list of people that could do it. That was one of the ways that they assisted in that. There is an initial report someone can get, but the other councils, and I think Wanganui's got a separate fund that they can apply to, but they have helped them with their they've given them a rates remission when they do the work. Manawatu district councils given them a rates remission when they do the consent. So far, they've actually, I think, only had 2 people apply for them. My other challenge with that was I thought about what happens to the ratepayers that have done that work, that have gone through that process as well. So, Councillor Sullivan, you might be able to shed some light on that.
Oh, it's real hot potato that I sympathise with Susan, but it's my discussions in my other life with people are that the government are looking to extend the time limits by 4 years shortly and are undertaking a review. I think we just sit tight and pray for pennies from heaven.